Hello, friends. So excited to be connecting with you today. And as you're moving into the middle of this month, I'm trying to help all of us think creatively and strategically about how we can make small but intentional tweaks to the way we're doing things that we're already doing to increase our emotional well-being and to smooth out, especially the tricky parts of our difficult emotions. I can't wait to talk with you today about one of my favorite skill sets, which is being able to embody your emotions. And emotional embodiment is a big topic that we cover in the Vibrant Mom Collective. It's a really important skill set, and there's great beauty and depth to the practice as a whole. But today, I just want to give you a simple little tidbit of emotional embodiment practice that you can take with you into just whatever you're already doing for your own movement practices. So you might think about it as multitasking. I'm giving you permission to multitask. So when you're doing something like going on a walk or going to a movement class or going to the gym to lift weights or going on a hike or taking a quick little run, whatever it is that you do to try to care for your body, you can bring this multitask skill of emotional embodiment to the table. I also want to include practices like that are a little more restorative that you're doing for your body. Like if you're doing a sauna or a hot tub session, or if you're getting a massage, or if you're laying down to just rest and take a quiet, shut your eyes, take a few deep breaths moments. Anything that you're doing to care for your physical body and you're using your body or you're doing something for your body, this is a wonderful time to layer on a little bit of emotional well-being work. I like to break down the what can feel like big or complex process of your emotional health and relating to your emotions skillfully. I like to break it down into simple, actionable, and practical things that you can do on a daily basis that don't take up quite as much time as you might imagine them to take. And so this emotional embodiment practice is something that you can do while you're doing something that you were already choosing to do, which is like double win. Your body is going to benefit from whatever physical thing you did. Probably your mental health will benefit from moving your body or caring for your body. But guess what? You can get an additional boost of emotional well-being if you apply the skill of emotional embodiment to your physical movement practice. So emotional embodiment is a skillful way of moving through your emotions within the wisdom and the container of the body. Practically speaking, when we're moving our bodies or connecting deeply with our bodies, it's a wonderful container to explore your emotional world. And it's a beautiful container, this body, to bring soothing, bring support, bring connection, and bring and facilitate some movement and evolution of our emotions when we're using our body to help us do that. When we're trying to work through our emotional world, so something has happened, right? Something has happened. We've had an interaction with someone or something difficult has occurred. We're naturally going to have lots of thoughts and some emotions get kicked up around that event. That's a really human experience. Something happens, there's a stimulus, and then there's a reaction to that stimulus. And what we want to be able to cultivate as growing, deepening, maturing women is an ability to create a space between the thing that happened and our reactions around our thoughts and feelings. So we want to create this spaciousness and gain some skills to be able to work through those emotions and shape the way that we're going to take action after we've moved through and worked through those emotions. So rather than being reactive, we're working on being able to choose an aligned, a strong, and intelligent and authentic response. And I think one of the best ways to get that spaciousness isn't actually through mind practices or through our thoughts. It's our thoughts can get us so twisted around and tight, and it can actually exacerbate emotion in a way that's not helpful or get us stuck in emotion or get us avoidant of our emotions and wanting to get out of the experience as soon as possible. The mind isn't always the best first place to reckon with our emotional world. I find that if we can get below the neck, just drop down deeper, that using the container of our bodies can be a much better, much more spacious and effective place to work through our emotions. When we're practicing emotional embodiment, we're able to stay more present and connected with our emotional experiences. We are able to expand our capacity to be with the difficulty rather than avoidant or overwhelmed by it. We're better able to understand and look at the feelings, but also feel our essential self, like who we are deep inside, as having those feelings, but not those feelings. We want to get like a big self identity energy when we're struggling or in pain. We want to access a part of ourselves that can hold our hand through the experience, that can see this pain we're in as essential information and just kind of an essential part of being human. So being able to locate kind of who we are deeper than the fluctuation of the situation is really important. When we're embodying our emotions are given space to evolve rather getting stuck or fixed. And if we have a spacious container to work through our emotions, we're going to understand them better and we're going to learn more about ourselves and we're going to learn what we need to do in order to take wise action and aligned action with what's most important to us as a result of that emotional experience. So, step number one is just to simply remember when you are moving your body, you have an opportunity to bring a layer of intentionality to that movement practice. You can be intentional not only about what you're doing to support your physical health, but you can be intentional about using that time as a space to be connected to yourself on a deeper level and help you move emotions through and help you move through your difficult experiences from the inside out. Now, the second thing that I want you to think about doing after you've decided that you're going to be reserving a portion of your workout or your movement practice for this emotional work, the second thing I'd recommend you doing is using whatever physical thing you're doing as a way to create more space inside. The first thing we want to do with an embodiment practice is to increase our internal capacity to be with whatever we're going through or whatever we're dealing with. So I want you to imagine that like breathing practice you're doing or that challenging like hike and push up the hill or that last several steps of like pushing weight and using your body for like weight training, whatever you're doing. I want you to think about that effort also creating a capacity within to be with yourself and to be able to hold and work through any emotional experience you might be going through. I like to think of the experience of our emotions being like water Like emotions are meant to move and flow, not flow away and go away necessarily, but they're meant to have movement. They're meant to bring our attention to something in our lives that we love, something in our lives that is challenging, something in our lives that needs us to pay attention to our desires more, needs us to pay attention to our needs more, is asking us to take action or make some changes or make some requests. Like our emotions have data in them. But before we can actually get that data with specificity and skill, we need to widen our ability, increase our capacity to experience the emotion and to feel like we're a more capable self to rise to the occasion to experience that emotion. So if our emotions are like a river or like a wave that comes in, gets big, kind of eventually dissipates, breaks up and recedes, or like a river current that is sometimes flowing through and a little bit splashy or calm and placid or really roaring and tumultuous. Our emotions are like water flowing or like a river flowing. And the first thing we want to do with the skill of emotional embodiment is to widen the riverbanks and deepen that riverbed. So no matter what the quality of the water is that's moving through our awareness, we have an internal capacity to meet the moment. So the second thing you're doing with emotional embodiment is you're trying to just remind yourself, I am bigger than this. I am as big. Emotion can get as big as it needs to get, and I am yet bigger still. I can breathe my way. I can move my way. I can strengthen my way. My body is my ally, and it is helping me get big enough to hold this experience. So we're increasing our capacity for our emotions when we're connecting with our body intentionally and making meaning out of our movements, meaning out of any physical strength or physical spaciousness we feel as a result of our movement practices. We're choosing to claim some of that physical benefit for our increased capacity to feel our emotions. And then the third thing that we can do quite simply with an emotional embodiment practice is to bring physical experiences that represent soothing and support. Sometimes navigating difficult or complex emotional experiences feels really bad. And if you're a normal human, you're going to do two things naturally when you encounter the pain of difficult experiences that have uncomfortable emotions involved with them. One is to be avoidant of your emotions, try to push it as far away as possible, try to solve the problem so that you're no longer feeling bad immediately, even if it's not like a great way to solve the problem, or you're trying to tune out or numb out from that feeling. You're trying to compartmentalize too much. Like you're just really trying everything you can to get out of the emotion as soon as possible. That's like a pretty common way to relate to our painful emotions unless we're applying specific emotional well-being skill sets to the experience. And the problem with that chronic avoidance or that chronic intolerance for feeling good emotions is that we don't actually get the data we need from the emotion. So we don't actually probably take action, wise action, soon enough to give ourselves what we most need deep inside underneath that emotional experience. Or it just takes a really long time for us to get there. Or we, in our avoidance, kind of try to minimize our emotional experiences in general. And what we know about emotional experiences is that we can't selectively numb. So if we're working really hard to try to reduce our experience of uncomfortable emotions like insecurity, doubt, fear, frustration, anxiety, then we're also unintentionally, as we're trying to limit or numb or check out of those experiences, we're also limiting our capacity on the other side of the feeling spectrum to feel deep joy, deep gratitude, deep excitement, deep contentment. We experience those positive feelings a little bit more fleetingly, a little bit more muted if we're not also able to experience and grow our capacity to experience the uncomfortable emotions as well. So the cost of avoiding the experience of your emotions is not getting the data that you need in order to take your right action around that situation. And you're also unintentionally and unfortunately limiting the proximity you have to the good feelings, the sweet feelings as well. The other things that humans do totally normally when confronted with painful emotions is either avoid, as we've just discussed, or get overwhelmed by the experience. Overwhelm means we feel lost in the experience. We feel like our emotion is predictive, inevitable, never going to change, bigger than us. We feel like the situation or the other person or we are completely defined by that difficult emotional experience. We can get kind of just overwhelmed and collapsed and not be able to take any action at all as we're kind of retreating from life until that feeling of overwhelm subsides. When we get overwhelmed by our feelings, we also become more afraid of them. Like the same thing with avoidance. When we're in either or two of those postures with our emotions, we get less and less comfortable with our uncomfortable feelings. And my goal for you as a result of being in relationship with me, of having these conversations, is to feel much more comfortable with who you are, how you're experiencing your life, and all the emotions that you have. These normal, challenging, but important human emotions that you're going to have as your life changes, as you evolve, and as your day-to-day experience fluctuates. So whether you're noticing that you're in avoidance or if you're noticing that you're in overwhelm, the tendency with either is to try to feel better as soon as possible. And how human. I just want to feel good. I want to feel better. And if that is the motivating force, you're really selling yourself short. You're limiting your growth. You're limiting your vibrancy. You're limiting your well-being significantly. What I want for you instead is to learn how to feel, fill in the blank, any emotion better. Learn how to feel anxiety better. Learn how to feel frustration better. Learn how to feel betrayal better. Learn how to feel disappointment better. Learn how to feel any emotion better. Learn how to feel joy better. Learn how to feel gratitude better. Learn how to feel any emotion better. Better meaning with more skill, with more capacity. And one of the things that can help us tolerate and feel whatever we're feeling better is bringing physical, sensory experiences that feel soothing and supportive to the table when we're going through and working through our emotions. So step 3 is bringing in physical things, like sensory things to the table that are soothing and supportive, that can help you stay in that increased capacity while you're paying attention to your emotions. You're getting curious about the story and the information behind them, and you're doing your best to decide kind of what you want to do about the situation and what steps you want to take after that workout or after that body session. So it's very simple and very practical, the soothing and support step. It could look like while you're stretching after your movement practice, just noticing and letting it register how good it feels to release physical tension from your muscles and how good it feels to just like drop your shoulders a little bit more out of your ears. How good it can feel to take a couple big, spacious breaths. So you're stretching or you're breathing or you're intentionally letting go of tension in your body at the end of a workout or at the beginning of a movement practice or right in the middle, whenever. And you're choosing to attach those positive, like those enjoyable physical experiences with a sense of soothing and support for the hurting or complicated emotions that you're having. Or maybe you step outside after a movement practice if you're not already outside. And rather than just moving your brain on into the rest of your day right away, you just take a seat or you take a stand and you take a few deep breaths with your hands over your heart. These hands are like holding hands where you're offering yourself a gesture of compassion, a gesture of kindness, and a gesture of, I'm going to be with myself while I'm going through this emotional experience. I'm going to bring a nurturing part of myself to the table as I'm sorting this difficult life experience out. And this is a little step that I think people get a little bit confused by. So I want to make one thing clear. It's a pretty common experience if you have a really enjoyable movement experience that you probably feel better, like mind, body, emotionally. You probably feel better after you did that physical experience. It's one of the benefits of moving your body. But feeling better because you did a movement practice is not the same as helping yourself feel your emotions better. Those emotions that you are coming into that movement practice with might feel like further away, may feel less demanding, may feel like, oh, I'm not worrying about that quite as much anymore. I feel much better. That's a wonderful starting point. But it would be a mistake to be like, oh, I feel better because I did that movement thing and then just move on. You haven't actually done the work if you do that, of returning to yourself on the inside. Now that you're feeling a little more spacious, now that you're feeling more relaxed, now that you feel a little more capable and empowered and have kind of let go of some parts of that experience that were accumulating tension within you. Now that you've done that, that is a beautiful starting point to go back into your body, back into the emotional experience. Reconnect with yourself. Try to get the information from the emotion now that it's not so intense, but there might be an echo of it. So get back into that emotion. Try to get some data from it. Try to get a sense of what you'll need from yourself to move through that difficult experience moving forward. And remind yourself that you're bringing this soothing sensory information like a breath of fresh air or getting some sun on your face or stretching your body or relaxing tension from your body. You're doing those things not to get rid of the emotion, but to, as a gesture, as a symbol of support and soothing. Like I can feel this and I can be soothed. I can feel this and I can feel supported within. How cool is it that your physical body creates the container for that personal work to unfold? I'm curious what you think about this. I'm curious as you look ahead at your week and maybe you've identified 2 or 3 little pockets of time where you hope to do something to care for your physical body. You're hoping to move it or do something that supports it very intentionally. I'm curious if you can put a little note in your calendar or put a little note on your gym bag or put a little note on your yoga mat or put a little note on your walking shoes, little sticky note. And that sticky note could say, embody my emotions. And that means preserve a small part, or maybe it's going to take up the whole sesh, whatever you decide, but reserve a small part of that movement practice to work through a little bit of emotions, make contact with them, increase your capacity to rise to the occasion, to be able to deal with that situation or deal with that thing that is, the source of so much emotional content for you. And then layer in just a few chosen small gestures of physical soothing and comfort as a gesture of connection and support with yourself as you move forward. That physical session isn't going to resolve the emotion completely. It's not going to solve the situation, but it's going to make you a much more capable person to meet the moment. It's going to make you much more capable of getting in contact with what's most important to you and who you are deep down. And it's going to give you a much better brain to try to problem solve how you want to move forward and move and grow beyond the challenges that are in the day to day. If you decide to try this embodying emotion practice out, let me know. Drop a note in the show notes below and let me know like what you did, how it went, and how it felt for you. Thank you so much for your time and for listening. And I can't wait to connect with you again soon.